Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is just a quick preview and prediction for Ryan Garcia versus Emmanuel Tagoe. This fight goes down on the 9th of April, takes place on DAZN, both in the UK and in the USA. Now I have to say, Ryan Garcia, he's been out of a ring for quite some time. Last time he fought was January 2021 against Luke Campbell, of course. He's been out of a ring for quite some time, but nevertheless, I was expecting a slightly higher level of opponent for Ryan Garcia. So I think the opponent choice here in Emmanuel Tagoe is somewhat underwhelming. Not to say Tagoe is a bad fighter, because he's not. But, you know, given the hype surrounding Ryan Garcia, I think it's fair to say that we expected a little bit better. But nevertheless, Tagoe's not a bad fighter. I would say he's the second best guy that Ryan Garcia has fought, but a step back from Luke Campbell, in my humble opinion. But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing how Ryan Garcia looks after a little while out of a ring. So we'll see. Let's briefly break down the tale of the tape. Ryan Garcia, he has a record of 21-0, 18 of his 21 wins coming by way of knockout, big puncher. Emmanuel Tagoe has a record of 32 wins, 1 defeat, 15 of his 32 wins coming by way of knockout. Ryan Garcia is listed as 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, whereas Emmanuel Tagoe is listed as 5'8" with a 75-inch reach. So Tagoe does have the advantage in regards to reach. He does have long arms, but Ryan Garcia naturally is the heavier set lightweight. He is the bigger man, he's taller. He just carries more weight in the ring, and I'm assuming that he's going to be the stronger guy in there. Ryan Garcia is 23 years old, whereas Emmanuel Tagoe is 33 years old, and both of these guys are orthodox fighters. Now let's briefly break down what I believe each guy should do to stand the best chance of winning, and at the end of the video I will reveal my prediction. I guess I'll start with the underdog Emmanuel Tagoe. Now traditionally, from what little I've seen of Tagoe, I've seen a couple of his fights, he seems to be a relatively high output guy. He's got quite good dexterity in his approach. But fundamentally, he is lacking in a lot of areas, and in this fight, defensively, he definitely needs to tighten up in certain areas. One thing I've noticed about Tagoe, despite having really long arms, he's got a really horrible habit of leaning in with his punches, in particular with his jab out of that orthodox stance. Obviously, he throws the left jab, and he's got a habit of really reaching in, where he'll throw the jab and his head will come over his front foot. He really reaches in, and on top of that, his right hand will drop as he's throwing that jab. And when you're fighting a quick-handed counterpuncher like Ryan Garcia with serious power, serious speed, that can be a recipe for disaster, in particular that left hook, which is Ryan Garcia's best punch. So when it comes to things like that, Emmanuel Tagoe definitely needs to tighten up his game, no doubt about it. If he's jabbing with Ryan Garcia and he's on the outside, he needs to be wary of Ryan Garcia coming in with that leaping hook and countering him if he gets lazy with that jab. So, you know, he needs to be on his P's and Q's when it comes to that sort of thing. Also, he's got the habit of sometimes he'll kind of quickly close the distance, get to mid-range, and he will wing with combinations. Now, while I like his variety, he'll swing from body to head, etc., he does come in very square on, and sometimes he'll come forwards. Well, a lot of the time he'll come forwards, he'll close the distance with his hands down or hands lowish, where he's not really defending himself. The guard is non-existent. So in that moment, when he's closing that distance, he needs to be much more defensively responsible. And again, when he's attacking, he needs to be wary of coming in square. You know, I think Tagoe has the dexterity and the foot speed to actually come in low, bob and weave kind of thing. I think he's got the dexterity to do that. But the problem for Tagoe is, I don't think he can afford to trade with Ryan Garcia at mid-range. Ryan Garcia is very dangerous in that territory, but I think Tagoe in this fight needs to he needs to really smother Ryan Garcia. I'd actually advise him to try not to jab in this fight. I know that sounds crazy. I'd be wary of throwing that jab with Ryan Garcia on the outside, because from what I've seen of Tagoe's jab, I think Ryan can easily counter it. So the jab, in my opinion, should be used sparingly for Emmanuel Tagoe. Don't stand off and box Ryan Garcia. If he does that, I believe Emmanuel is getting knocked out. So yeah, utilise that jab as you're coming forwards. If Ryan Garcia is totally backpedaling and you're coming in, throw the jab, try and keep Ryan Garcia off balance. But if Ryan sets his feet, don't jab. Just try and close the distance, get underneath his punches, and then collapse the pocket and work on the inside. Ryan Garcia, he's got serious power, both at mid-range and even on the outside. But when you smother Ryan Garcia, he tends not to generate the same sort of power in his shots. Now, we saw that against Carlos Morales a few years ago. Morales did a really good job of smothering Ryan Garcia, and he made the distance. He actually lost a majority decision in that fight, gave Ryan Garcia a lot of trouble. So for me, I would advise Tagoe to try to find a way to get to the inside, and when you're on the inside, try and stick to Ryan Garcia like glue. Don't give him space to cork open that left hook or land some damaging punches. Just try and stick to him, smother the power, make it rough, make it horrible in there, and try and grind down Ryan Garcia. Because I don't believe that Tagoe has the boxing ability or the technical ability to box with Ryan and not make a whole bunch of mistakes. I mean, he's awkward. He can make Ryan Garcia look bad if he boxes, but I think eventually he'll get caught and get knocked out. So for me, in this fight, Tagoe needs to try to be a bit more pressure-oriented. Primarily, I mean, he does try to box Tagoe, but I have seen him apply pressure. He can work on the inside, and I think he needs to take that in this fight. That's the approach he needs, in my opinion. And really try to test Ryan. He's been out of a ring for quite some time. He's had his issues outside the ring. Of course, against Luke Campbell, he got dropped. And maybe he's doubting himself right now. So for me, Tagoe needs to really put it on Ryan and ask questions of him. Ask him, does he really want this? Make it a hard fight. Make it a rough fight. Try to deplete that energy. Get to that body. Be a bit rough, etc. But yeah, he needs to be careful coming in. He needs to be careful as he's closing that distance. You know, maybe try and feint on the outside. Keep low, compact. And if you can draw the lead, try to get underneath and then get to the inside and work. But to me, that is Tagoe's best chance in this fight, is to somehow crowd Ryan Garcia, fight on the inside, and most importantly, keep the fight there. You know, keep the fight there for as long as you can. That's what I would say in regards to Emmanuel Tagoe. In regards to Ryan Garcia, he's got the hand speed advantage, he's got the power advantage, naturally more explosive, he's younger, he's fresher, and overall he's the bigger guy in there. Naturally, you know, as I was mentioning earlier, Tagoe, while he's awkward, while he can be somewhat herky-jerky, he makes a lot of technical mistakes. Ryan Garcia has to be on the lookout for that, because ultimately Ryan's got the speed, timing and power to capitalise on that. Listen, when it comes to Ryan Garcia, one thing I didn't like in regards to the Campbell fight, he was boxing with Campbell a little too much early on. He got dropped, he was losing rounds, and he was quite predictable in there. He wasn't really, you know, throwing any feints or trying to draw the lead of Luke Campbell. Eventually, Ryan Garcia just overpowered Luke Campbell more than anything. In this fight, I want to see Ryan Garcia try to play with that lead hand control, try to throw a few feints, try to draw in Tagoe so that he can land those counters. Ryan Garcia is a reflexive fighter. Usually, he relies on his opponents making mistakes, but I want to see him create his own openings, make Tagoe take the lead, bait him in, set a trap, and then counter. Again, that left hook is going to be there for Ryan Garcia. Again, just look at Tagoe, look at his guard, and look at where he holds his right hand, especially when he throws that jab or tries to come in. It's very low. So, you know, I want to see Ryan try to draw in Tagoe to land that counter, and I want to see more of a jab from Ryan Garcia in this fight. I know Tagoe's got he's got the longer reach, but I want to see more of a jab from Ryan Garcia. I was disappointed in that in the Luke Campbell fight. He kind of abandoned it, and and again just overpowered Luke Campbell. So I want to see more of that jab from Ryan Garcia, a bit more variety in his lead hand. He's got a great left hook out of that lead hand, but I think his jab needs a lot of work, and I think he needs to practice that in this fight against a guy who's awkward and who's got a longer reach, right? And another area in which I want to see Ryan Garcia build on, and one thing he did well in that Luke Campbell fight, I know he'd done a lot wrong technically in that fight, but one thing he did well, he did a really good job of working the body of Luke Campbell, and I think against a guy like Tagoe, who can move a bit, who can be awkward, he can make you look bad, to slow him down, because Tagoe does have quick feet, I want to see Ryan Garcia work that body. And in regards to defense for Ryan Garcia in this fight, I want to see Ryan Garcia utilize a better guard. Ryan Garcia is quite a straight up fighter. He stands tall, his chin is in the air at times. I want to see more of a high guard from Ryan Garcia in this fight, because Tagoe, he's got the habit of throwing looping wild punches at times. They can come from crazy angles, doesn't always look the most pretty, but against a guy like Ryan who's got his chin in the air, his guard is really wide, he can be susceptible to those sort of shots. So I want to see Ryan Garcia pay much more attention to defense in this fight. He's never going to be a Pernell Whitaker, but a good high guard, I believe, would benefit Ryan Garcia. A nice active high guard would benefit Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. And obviously, on top of that, that lead hand control, which needs to be developed to manage distance as another form of defense. But we all know that Ryan Garcia, in regards to raw attributes, has a lot of potential: speed, power, timing, etc. But technically, he does have to improve on a lot. And I'm looking to see that in this fight. I'm looking to see more of a jab. I'm looking to see a better defense, etc. Better lead hand control. That's what I want to see from Ryan Garcia in this fight. And yeah, I think Tagoe is a good guy to practice on. He's not a scrub, he's not a slouch, but he's not exactly cream of a crop either. So we'll see. But in regards to predictions, I believe Ryan Garcia wins this fight. And more than likely Ryan Garcia knocks out Emmanuel Tagoe, and I'm going to say in the middle rounds 5 to 7, Ryan Garcia knocks out Tagoe. I believe it's going to be with a left hook, because when you look at Tagoe's defense, he is very susceptible to that shot, and in my opinion, that is Ryan's best punch. That's his best punch, bar none. So I've got Ryan Garcia by mid-round knockout. What about you guys? How do you see this fight going? Share your thoughts below. Are you picking Ryan Garcia, or are you picking the underdog in Emmanuel Tagoe? And I've probably butchered his name all video, but what can you do? What can you do? Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.